So, no? Okay, thank you, Eclectic Goddess. So here's my thoughts on, from my perspective, someone who's been practicing probably a lot longer than a lot of people who are, I don't want to say a lot of people that are online, because there's a ton of people online who I believe do have integral practices, and yet there are a lot of beginner witches that are putting their craft out online, and well intended, right? Well meaning, but they have not even been through a year of practice or been initiated or initiating themselves. And so they're sharing things that are really diminishing the power of the witch and who the witch is. And it's hard from my end, someone who's been practicing this for so long, to see people make up new things. And I'm sure that over time, to some extent, we've had to decide what was witchcraft and what wasn't. Because in the past, the craft, anyone that practiced the craft was killed, was murdered. And all of our history murdered, killed as well. I mean, they destroyed it basically. So it's what is the craft and what wasn't the craft. If you are a witch, it would behoove you to study the Golden Dawn, because the Golden Dawn carries a lot of basis for what real witches, and I hate to say real witches because I don't want to diminish anyone, but I just I think the music's too loud for me. Well, did I completely turn it off? Usually I put on binaural beats, and today I didn't put on binaural beats, so I think my focus is having a hard time. Let's see. All right, that will help me. So I don't want to diminish anyone who's just starting out the craft and practicing, but we're seeing a lot of witches come to the craft just by practicing spells, and they find them online is the problematic thing, or they're using Chat GPT, I've heard, to find their spells. And we need to lean more on the past written word that we do have. And I personally am not Wiccan, but most of you have heard me say this. I have all the respect in the world for Wicca, because I really believe what they were trying to do is make a safe path or safe passage for the witch to live their life. So with Wicca being structured as a religion, what that did for all witches is made you safe under any Religious Freedom Act. So they had to structure it like a religion. They had to have a book, they had to have different orders, and make it so that it was a real religion. And I do respect it, and I think most of you witches don't even realize when you're out there yelling about all the things you don't believe and are angry, and you get fiery around not being Wiccan and not wanting to practice the Wiccan practices. And yet, without Wicca, if the burning times were to come back, they would be able to murder witches for what they believe. But because of Wicca being structured the way it is, we never have to worry about that in most places. And so with that, I think we need to have some just some respect for what they've created for them, because I guarantee all those witches that are like, I'm not Wiccan, I don't practice law of three, I'm not Wiccan, I don't believe in not doing any harm, and if they started coming through your community the way ICE is, but they were coming through the community after witches, the way they do ICE goes after people that are they aren't here legally. I just hate that whole thing, but that is basically what they used to do to witches. And I don't know if any of you have connected those dots, but watching the videos, I'm like, this is a modern day witch hunt against people that are illegal in the US. And I imagine that is what, it's like a different setting, right? And they're not coming after the witches because of Wicca, because we are safe under the Religious Freedom Act. Hi Marjorie, I hope you're feeling better. I'm happy to see you here. And so I look at these witches that are screaming, I'm not Wiccan, and I'm like, if they were coming down your street saying kill the witch, I guarantee you'd be saying, I'm Wiccan, I'm Wiccan. And so that's where you need to have some respect. And also, we don't really know who the witch is, and everyone is saying they're a witch. Christian people are saying they're witches, and yes, there can be witches that are bloodline witches in a Christian church. That was me growing up. However, you're a witch in the broom closet. You have no business teaching anyone if you are hiding in the broom closet in our modern days. We did not get to a point in the craft where we can come online and do what we are doing, do what I'm doing right now without being murdered. I would have had a mob outside my front door if it were 1500, 1300. And the reason we are here is from the bravery and the courage of the men and the women in the past that were willing to rise up and say, I am a witch. And so it really is a slap in the face to me to see Christian witches. I don't doubt that they are witches. It's just I think they have no business advertising themselves as a Christian witch and having basically inviting other people to take on that title as if it is something to be proud of, because what it is saying is, come be a witch in the broom closet and let's distort all of the witch practices further than they've already been distorted. And what I mean by that is, I often talk about simple things like calling graveyard dirt mullein, calling just things like that, using scripture versus incantation so that they wouldn't be caught. And it's like, there's no reason to be doing that in modern days. It's not going to further do any good for the witch. It's actually diminishing the archetype of the witch. And so, in my opinion, we need to rid the craft of any religious inklings of things that we find there. I've been studying recently the cross, and this is because my friend Stella and I were talking. I loved this dress. Actually, I was wearing it last week, and I was like, I really want to get this dress, but it's a cross, and I don't vibe with the cross. And she was like, I'm surprised, with all you look at, like, how don't you know that the cross origins was originally pagan? So I've been looking into that equal armed cross, and the equal armed cross was originally pagan. They made that cross off balance, whether the actual cross came up higher or the cross lower, for multiple different reasons. And so it really is, the Christian church took everything from the old pagan beliefs. And so they were really one of the first, loud and proud appropriators out there. I've also been studying the Cathars, and I really was drawn to the Cathars last year. I almost took a class in it, and now I wish I would have. I really still want to, actually. The class is still up from the teacher that I wanted to take it from, but I resonate deeply with who the Cathars are, and the Cathars were a group of people, spiritual people, and they were said to be the pure ones. And they weren't Catholic, but they were highly spiritual, and they were mostly, all of them were vegetarian, and they believed in doing no harm, but they didn't believe in the Catholic structure of religion. It sounds to me like they believed in a lot of what the Gnostics believed in Sophia, and that there was a dark god and a light god, and there was the dark god was known as the demiurge, and what kind of created by Sophia, and Sophia was wisdom. And the thing was, the Cathars believed you could save yourself. And so to me, I'm like, so the Cathars rose. And when you look at religion as a whole, I really want to take a course in religious studies at a college. I may look into that, actually, because I'm trying to figure the how each religion came into play. And so I'll study different ones that I'm drawn to that have more pagan roots to them. Like, when I first came out of the broom closet, I went to every church around, realized I believed in nothing Christian. I'm a witch, but I was still really drawn to anything that had Mary Magdalene in it, honestly. And Sylvia Browne had books on agnosticism, and that really drew me down the priestess path and the lineage of the Holy Grail, which I believe that lineage carries a lot of the witches' magic in it, and as well as the agnostics, I believe, all of these may be births or creations of the pagan times that were maybe people that were witches. And the thing is that I do believe there weren't that many out of the broom closet witches during the pagan conversion. I believe that most that were actually probably considered witches of those times weren't actually killed in that way, because they had the knowledge, the wisdom of how to avoid that, if that makes sense. And that's why now in modern days, because of who they were accusing women, we have this movement of all women are witches, and they use the word witch to basically fight back, which I like that. But at the same time, again, I'm just very protective, and I don't want to be gatekeepy around the craft, but I'm protective of the witch archetype, and I hate to see it being diminished through these modern day concepts that empower women but diminish the witch. So it's like we've got to differentiate between the modern spiritual woman and those that are actually following the life or the lineage, what we do have of the old ways of the craft. And I do believe there are a lot of the women today that are rising up just doing a spell or two and carrying tarot cards and some incense and saying they're a witch, and they don't even know what a Sabbath is. I believe that they were probably people that were murdered in the past for being a witch, but they weren't actually a witch. So they were falsely accused of being a witch. And so they were like, in this life, I'm going to come back and actually they have a draw to express themselves in the way of the witch, because they're trying to balance that karma out, that past life balancing. I try not to use the word karma, but there's no other word than karma. And karma is an Indian concept, Asian concept, and witches are inherently European. And so I'm always trying to look at what is actually folk magic and what is of the witch. And it's hard, you guys. When you start looking at it, you realize that a lot of the people that we are saying are witches are actually people that are just very drawn to the craft, and they are practicing pagan ways, not necessarily something that's witchcraft, right? So most of us are pagan witches, because unless you're looking at paganism as like something like themalism, that oh, I forgot his name. Who created themalism? Thelmism, however you say it. Hi, Sarah. Aleister Crowley. Anyway, he like created a like pagan religion, right? When I say pagan, I'm referring to all the people before the conversion of pagan Europe. So before the conversion, everybody lived by what we now call witchcraft, but it was just their way of life. We call it folk magic. So it's like, is that really the way of the witch? Well, witches, in my opinion, because they predate the conversion of pagan Europe, witches are all pagan, meaning they practice all of that folk magic. So my life, yes, is woven around what you would call folk magic, but to me, the real magic is hidden in plain sight. And that kind of brings me back to the Cathars. And one of the interesting things about the tarot that I recently learned is that the Cathars were said to, it's hard to know who actually was who created the first tarot deck, but there is a lot of lore and history around it possibly being the Cathars' wisdom hidden in plain sight within the tarot. So basically, the Catholic Church kept slaughtering and murdering the Cathars, and so they'd slaughter so many and they'd kind of like drift off into the distance, and then they would pop up somewhere else. A teacher of mine said it was kind of like whack-a-mole. My astrology teacher, she's someone I took all my astrology classes from. Her name is Harmony too, Divine Harmony, but she called it whack-a-mole, that they would rise up with a little bit different of a name, but the same belief system, and then they would slaughter them. And so it was like the Christian church really was out to slaughter anyone that was something that threatened what they were trying to use to control the people. So as long as you were a religion or a church that was rising, that was rooted in Christianity, and even sometimes they'd go and slaughter the people, but not always. But yeah, I mean, it was a very awful war-driven time, and I don't even, like, war isn't even the word. It's like they just would literally go out and murder people, kind of like we're seeing in the US here that they're doing with who they're calling illegal aliens. So, you know, I really watch that, and it hits me in a different way. And I don't know if that's hit you witches in that way, to where you paused watching these videos and been like, this is what it probably was like during the burning times. Because it hits different when you look at it like that. And for me, I don't know why, but every time I know why, because I've lived in that time where they would come after you. And, you know, historically, we don't see the townspeople rising up for the witches, but I believe there must have been a rising up of the people to eventually stop those burnings. Because historically, all that was passed down was that basically the leaders got tired of all the accusations, and so they stopped doing it. So I think they are like leaving out a big part of history, and that worries me for our history. Thank you, Marjorie. Our history moving forward as witches, and why I encouraged everyone to journal what is happening right now, because what will we see in the future? Hi, Kelly, She-Wolf Tarot. What will we see in the future of witchcraft? what will we see was happening here in the US 100 years from now, because what will be passed down is what the government wants to be passed down if it goes the way that it went in history, right? So it's our responsibility. You're right, Kelly. We are the future. Our word, our journalings, our book of shadows are everything right now. And I believe even 100 years from now, who the witch is or who the witch was is going to look really confusing, because there's so many voices screaming what the craft is. And it's like, these people have only studied the craft maybe 5 years. And I've had people attack me online and be like, you shouldn't use your own blood in magic. And I've been practicing 12 years. And it's like, okay, I don't want to throw my age out there or throw my years of doing the craft out there to make myself more important than you. But I promise you, I've got a lot more years on you of practicing the craft. And I've come through a different time and see these people that have written these old books and what they were looking at the craft as and how to make the craft safe in our modern day world. And I look at it differently. And so I just believe most of us need to come to the craft with a beginner's mind, even if you've been practicing 30 years. Yeah, that's me too, 30 plus years. I'm 50. A lot of people look at me and don't know my age, and so they underestimate me. But here's the thing, I don't think age makes you any wiser than anyone else. I know some very young people that are very, very wise and do have the utmost respect and everything for the craft. But then there's also people who are my age that are just getting into it, that are like, I'm old, so you should listen to me. And it's like, well, that's not the case either. So we're all children learning. Yes, free spirit, I agree with that. That we all need to have a beginner's mind, and that's astrologically, that's been coming up a lot the last 5 years with these different astrological movements, is have a beginner's mind, be open to changing. Even myself with 30 plus years, I am always looking for more. That's why I made my business called Mystic Witch. There's no such thing as a mystic witch. But the reason to identify what I am doing over here, I have added the word mystic, because the only thing the mystic knows is they know nothing at all, which means that you are open to your craft evolving and changing. And the reason I have that is because our history has been destroyed. I had a Venus teacher who, she was Buddhist, she's been all these different things, and she taught on the planet, specifically Venus, but she said she practiced witchcraft for a while, but she didn't like it because there wasn't enough actual documented history on what the craft was, and it was too elusive for her, where she was drawn more to Buddhism, which I've studied Buddhism too, because of the thousands of years of history that Buddhism has. But for me, it's like my draw to coming on these lives and showing up on social media the way I do is exactly why she said what she said. Is because if no one ever takes that stand or that lead to say, this is what a witch is, this is what the witch isn't, and I believe Wicca's done that to some extent, but how do we as solitary witches create a foundation for ourselves that cannot be erased? And the thing is that every foundation, like you're gonna find in every culture, in every religion, that there are these crossovers. Hi, Ashley. And things that are very similar. And so that makes the topic of appropriation really, it's a difficult one to come to. And I have a Native American mentor. She's also a witch. And she is about honoring and respecting every belief system. And she'll get on me sometimes because I definitely have a bias against anyone that's practiced, not anyone, but the religion of Christianity. So if Christianity influences any religion, I kind of got a wall up. And she believes that she's told me in her Native American prophecies, she says the different tribes have different ones, but she said they all say there will be a time where the white man starts turning to them for their wisdom, and she believes that's this time. She says if the Native American people are so busy yelling at people, telling them they can't come near their practices or come to their circles or anything, how will that prophecy ever come? And so she believes in honoring every religion, every culture. And on her land, like, she's got her medicine wheel and everything, but she also has a place for each different religion, and that she honors those because she wants us all to come together in peace. And I believe that is really beautiful, and I love that. And I love that she's showing up. I have been initiated into so many of her practices by her, and white people, you don't have that opportunity a lot, but with a leader, a teacher like her, it opens you up to learning a new way. And the thing is the white man did come onto this part of the world where I live in the US and take over through violence and harm and slaughtering of people. And it's very, very sad, but our history is full of that, right? And so we keep ending up with these leaders in every country that feel the answer is to slaughter the entire population. Last night I was watching or listening, I wasn't actively watching the social media. My husband was watching the news or whatever on what's going on in Iran and with Israel and the US, and the whole thing makes me sad, and we do have to remember right now there's a lot of illusion because we're between the eclipses, so we're in this portal where the divine is trying to grab the wheel, and we also have people who utilize the energy of the eclipses for evil, for wrongdoing. It's very important, if we're practicing anything as witches right now, that it be protection and energetically to remember that all the time what we are emanating from our body energetically, the elites are using, they are siphoning that energy, the entities that they create. And I know this sounds woo, I was talking about it last week. The entities or energies that they are creating through their ritual and ceremony, that yes, probably are rooted in who the witch is rooted in the occult. But again, like that's showing you like who the witch was the ones I believe we see in those circles of 13, where there was 12 females in a circle and one male representing the horned god. That wasn't the entire community. That was circles of 13. And so for me, I'm always searching out those circles of 13, because what they were doing there was the witch. And then they started we'll call them the elites, the government, the higher up leaders in the church started, because they employed witches to help them, they started taking the witches' magic and utilizing it for evil. And so that's why I'm also very careful around baneful magic, is because the way people are using baneful magic today is feeding the people that are doing that evil magic, where there is torture and there is sacrifice. And we see that historically, sacrifice all the way back to the beginning of time. So this has been used, what we are being exposed to right now, what is coming out from being hidden, has been on this planet forever. The difference is that now we have proof. Now we can read it. And what is sad to me is that for many people, they are it's gonna have to get worse. No, I'm not Illuminati. I am a witch. It's going to have to get worse before it gets better, because there are still people that are turning a blind eye to what is happening. And so I believe from that soul aspect of self, that what we are seeing happening right now, like the humans don't like it, right? And most of us that are empathic and looked at this stuff before already knew it was happening. We already felt it in our physical body as soon as we read it, right? But a lot of people read it and were like, they weren't that empathetic. And that is where it shows you who is really has those abilities as a, what you would call a gift, which I hate to say because it like puts you in a different league, which separates you from other people. Everybody has the ability to be empathic, yet we have been programmed through a patriarchal society to shut that empathic side of us down. And then there are people that are unhealthy empaths. I was one of them, so this is why I speak to that absorbs everything negative. And so even the unhealthy empaths usually could look at this stuff back 8 years ago, 5 years ago, at the stuff QAnon was bringing out, and it was like, yeah, there is truth here, but I'm not on board with this whole Trump's gonna be our savior thing. And it's like, people like here's an example. My husband is very, very empathetic. I always call him my personal empath because he has a Cancer moon, and he definitely has empathic abilities because he can feel me. And just his hands being placed on my heart or on my belly, if I get overwhelmed, like triggered by the world, all he has to do is put his hands on me, and it brings me back down and into my body. Yet at the same time, I was showing him this stuff from QAnon that I believed was happening. Not that I believed in QAnon, not at all. He was like, that's pretty far-fetched, Harmony. And now that the Epstein files are out, he's like, holy shit, this actually is happening. And so it's like, even people that are empathetic, if some of them, a lot of them, majority of humanity is so shut off in the heart to be able to survive here, that on this planet, that they need to see it. They need the people reading the Epstein files on their page for them to actually register that, yes, this is not a hoax. This is actually real. And hopefully this doesn't shift to where people start pointing the finger at witches, because I can see it. Like, what they're exposing is rooted in the occult. It's rooted in witchcraft that was beautiful, but they took it and twisted it and made it evil and demonic. And hopefully that makes sense to you. And I think that's why you can't just dismiss the topic of appropriation, because there are powerful rituals and ceremonies in every culture. If you are not taught or initiated by someone in that culture, it will always be twisted and then eventually used not for the greater good, but used for the destruction of our society, because that's what we are seeing happening right now. Yeah, they do it across the board. So it's a big topic. It's a lot to untangle in our bodies, emotionally, energetically. It's like everything we are seeing online it's like every day you wake up to something new. And what it reminds me of is, I remember the first time in my lifetime waking up to something that was like, what in the literal fuck? I had just had my daughter. She was only a couple months old, my middle daughter, Cecily, and I was in bed with her, and my husband at that time, who's now my ex-husband, got up, turned on the TV, and in the living room was like, holy shit. And as soon as he said those words, my entire body, before I even knew what was happening, it was like, I still remember that feeling. And it's like, ever since 2020, and that was 9/11, is what I was waking up to that morning. And now it seems like every morning I turn on my phone, it's like, okay, what is the holy shit moment I'm waiting for? And so we're learning to ride the roller coaster ride as empaths, if you consider yourself an empath, you've got to get healthy, because this time when everything's being exposed will destroy you. It will trigger your depression and your anxiety. And I consider myself a pretty healthy empath, and yet I'm still having, like this morning, I had to just like hug my husband for a moment, because the war information right now, like I'm getting a little emotional over it. Like, I don't like it, any of it, either side of it. And it's like, how many thousands of years, how many hundreds of years is humanity going to have to replay the same game before they figure out that we don't have to go to war and fucking bomb people? Nobody's right. Everybody's freaking wrong in our government. And I don't know how we're going to change that when even we have a lot of these younger people that are carrying forward like toxic patterns, being programmed and trained in patriarchy. Like, but there's a lot of young people that are coming up saying no. And so I do believe there's going to be a tipping of the scales. And you know, my daughters will tell me all the old people have to die out. And I'm like, not all old people are bad. Like, I did a protest here in my town where I'm one of a few. I'm not either Democrat or Republican. I'm actually registered as independent because I don't believe in either side. I tend to lean left, but when I went down to do that No Kings protest, the older people with freaking walkers that were walking during that protest in our town that is so highly Christian, you know, you can't generalize or categorize people, because there are a lot of older people that know what is happening is wrong, and it's not political, right? And I think that's part of why everything that's coming out is because we need to see that this isn't politics. It's human rights. And so many people email me and say, keep your political opinions off your story. We want to hear more witch stuff. And I'm like, bye. You don't have to follow me. I am not preaching politics. I am preaching human rights. We have to realize we are one. And I guess that's where my Native American mentor, Rebecca, where I really believe there is value in what she says about respecting every one of the other religions that are out there. The problem is the religions do not have that same respect for us. And so by being someone that has a large following on social media, so many people think that is like the most wonderful thing, and I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful it fills my retreats and allows me to follow my purpose in this life. However, I had to learn to be a healthy empath to be who I am today, because of what I opened myself up to by having this many people have access to me. And what that looks like is I'm being daily attacked by my own kind, witches, being attacked by religions, churches, different political sides. It's like you open yourself up to everyone's opinion on what you are doing. And that, my friends, my sisters, is codependency. When you feel your opinion matters in somebody else's reality. It doesn't. To be sovereign, you need to worry about your own damn self and do what is best for you. So being a witch and being codependent do not go. They don't go. Being a witch and feeling you need a savior doesn't work. This is why, like, I was so drawn to learning about the Cathars, because the Cathars have a lot of these belief systems that I believe were inherently pagan, but that to be a witch, again, you had to be pagan if you came before the conversion. So to me, I'm like, That's why since I was a child, there was that knowing that I was a witch when I was 5 years old. But I also know that inherently I did not want to eat meat and did not want to harm people, and was adversely, like, so highly against even the church that I was in. Like, I would not say something that I did not believe. And that was the Cathars. They did not believe you needed a savior, so they would not say that. They were a group of people that were slaughtered again and again. And so, you know, I believe a lot of us have past lives, as many things that we don't even know, but there's clues. But we don't study these type of things in school. I believe these things are actually very important. Where we came from is so important. Knowing this history, following the breadcrumbs, it's difficult because it's like, what is true? What isn't true? And it's just, and at the same time, everyone's turning against each other. And it's like, rather than following the breadcrumbs or believing what you believe and feeling like you need to go out and convert other people or fight other people, how about just follow your own breadcrumbs and do your own thing? Can we at least agree on that if we could get everybody on that same page, where the people that are Christian didn't feel like they needed to judge us, like, that would make my platform so much easier. This past week, I posted a video of us doing yoga. I'm a yoga teacher. And I got so many comments about us not being able to ground on a plastic yoga mat. And I'm like, do you really think that is fucking important? If you think we cannot ground through a plastic or rubber yoga mat, then you are underestimating your own power, and you are underestimating the witch. Of course, it's not the best form of freaking grounding, but I'm not going to take a group of women outside on wet grass and make them roll around on the ground. I think being outside and doing yoga, even if you're standing on a yoga mat, is better than staying inside and doing yoga, right? So it's like we're fighting over these ridiculous things. What makes you feel so competitive with other women or other teachers that you need to go out there and send these comments? It's like, I know your bare feet should be on the grass. We walked around that entire property for 5 days barefoot a lot of the time. We also get the comment of, we are in the cemetery with our shoes on. Go in a cemetery in Arizona without your shoes on. You step on a few goat heads and let me know what you think after that. You can ground through your shoes. Yes, it is more difficult to ground, but you can do it. You can do it. And it's like, we are busy, so busy, attacking each other over these things. And it's like, what good is that doing you? What good is that doing you to go on that other, if for me to go on another witch's platform and say, you're not a real witch, what good would that do for the witch? It really wouldn't do much good, would it? And that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what you believe. Just be who you are. And there's so many witches who are afraid to wear their symbols because of the judgment of other people. And you hear people online say all the time, like, there's nothing as evil as Christian love, and it's true. And it's like, even as witches, let's hold ourselves to a higher standard, not attack other witches. And that's everything that I teach the witches in my witch school, is that here's a foundation. The foundations we have are structured around what Wicca has given us, what came through the Golden Dawn, and what we have saved from the pagan times. That's basically all we have to create a foundation out of. From there, nobody can be doing anything right or wrong, because even if the craft originated in Europe, because of the Christian influence on pagan Europe, and the way it spread like a pandemic across the planet, now we have every culture influencing the craft, because who they seen in Siberia as a female shaman, or maybe in the Native American areas, the medicine woman, they all start becoming, this is a witch shaman over here. Now this female shaman over here is now referred to as a witch. So now we have Siberia's shaman, what is the word I'm looking for? Shamanic practices influencing the craft. Now we have Native American practices influencing the witch, because the word witch was appropriated across the entire planet, not in a good way, in a bad way. And so nobody can say you're doing that wrong or you're doing that right, because we have allowed the craft to be completely whitewashed. So I don't know what it's going to take. There's several witches out there who are writing books and doing things like this and trying to solidify some sort of structure around the craft. But it doesn't change what the masses believe on the craft. I had this little procedure this week. I had a procedure last year where I had my implants removed. And they had to go back in. I had this area where swelling had some problems. And when I went in to have that surgery done, I was telling everyone about it. I was standing there without my shirt on, and the doctor's like drawing all over me. And he starts asking me about witchcraft, what I do. And I tell him retreats, which ends up spiraling over to, yeah, I'm a witch. It's retreats for witches, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so we're 10 months out. I have to go back in for this revision. This time I'm awake during the procedure because they don't have to knock me out. But I'm laying there on my back, and he's like cutting me open and doing this stuff. And he's like, so when's your next retreat? And starts talking to me about this stuff, which spirals to like, so what do you believe about God? Which then ends up with the question, so if you don't believe in the devil or Satan, then you don't worship the devil? Do you worship the devil? And I'm like, this is where anybody being able to add a word to witch and make it a type of witchcraft, and this is why I also say Christian witches are harmful to the craft, is because people like him think that there is actually like devil worship in witchcraft. Now, are there people out there calling themselves Satan witches? Absolutely. Are there people out there calling in the devil in their witchcraft practice? Absolutely. Should they be? No. That's why I say Christianity has no business advertising I'm a Christian witch, because they are creating something out of the witch that isn't the real witch. Hopefully this is making sense to you guys. I hate when I have to put these puzzle pieces together on my screen. Oh, I did it wrong 3 times. Okay, got it that time. Originally, there was no devil in the craft. And if you've listened to me this entire time, you heard me start in the beginning with like, witches are pagan. We know we existed before the conversion of pagan Europe. Therefore, all the folk magic is inherently intertwined with witchcraft. Christianity, the only reason any Christian mythology ended up interwoven into the craft was so that those folk magic practices and witches could keep themselves alive. Do you realize that even when the tarot cards came out, that if you were found, like if people were accusing you of being a witch and stuff, there was a lot of time there where even though you couldn't murder people for being witches, it was still like highly judgmental against the witch, that if you were found with a deck of tarot cards, they would take the deck and they would remove the High Priestess card and the Empress card and then leave the rest of the deck there for you. Does that tell you what, like, you couldn't even, like, it's like, fine, keep your tarot cards, but we're going to take the two high priestesses, the two images that represent the Divine Mother, out of the deck and then give them back to you. It was a hunt to diminish women's power. And so for women to keep that magic alive, that folklore magic, the magic of the witch, the ceremony of the witch alive, they had to adopt Christian things, but we don't need that today. And we have these witches that are like, I'm a satanic witch, and they're sacrificing cats and dogs, and it's sickening and it's sad. But sacrifice has been going on for thousands of years. And even in these cultures we respect, in modern days, there is still sacrifice going on. And it's like, we need to, in every culture across the planet, make that practice illegal. You know, I was out at my Native American mentor, her house this week, getting some stuff for the retreat. And we were talking about everything that was going on in the world. And she said when she moved from wherever she moved from, where her tribe was, she's Chalagi Cherokee, long-haired tribe. And, you know, she learned their ways, their language, all of that. But when she moved out here, we have the Navajo, I forget all the different tribes she told me that were out here. And she said that some of those tribes would invite her into their practice. And one of the Navajo ones invited her in, and she said she never went back because it didn't resonate with her. But she was giving me this as an example to show me, like, you know, sacrifice, the people, the witches that are out there sacrificing animals, or Native Americans sacrificing animals, even, and they say it's their culture, their religion. Like, that's no different than what we're seeing happen in the Epstein files. It needs to be an overall coming together in unity, and that's always her message. But she said she went to this tribe and they had an elder that was ill, and they had a puppy in a cage, and she said she realized that the puppy was going to be sacrificed, and it was crying in the cage. And she said they were going to sacrifice the puppy because they believed to sacrifice the puppy gave the puppy's life to this elder. And so she said she just walked away because she said, out of respect for their practice. And I was like, wow, that just couldn't be me. I would have took the puppy and ran, and they would have had to have attacked me because I couldn't do it. But she was just showing me, like, it's everywhere, I guess, is what she was coming to. Even the people that I respect and look to for knowledge, you know, all the Native Americans, they have a different way of connecting to the earth that's so beautiful, but they also have these practices that have brought down from thousands of years ago. And it's like, the best thing that we can do is to, everyone needs to become aware, but we also need to stay in our bodies, and we need to get outside and off our phones for periods of time. Because when we hear those things, like that story I just told you about the puppy, for the rest of that day I kept breaking down in tears over a story I was told, you know, and it's like, that's happening. It's been happening as long as our society has been alive, and our inability to not be broke down by that is creating an energy. Like, that energy that was around me, like, I was able to move through it and release it and leave it as my prayer for the earth and my prayer for humanity, my incantation for humanity and for the animals and for the earth. And that's what we need to remember, is that we're needing to allow ourselves to process the anger, process the rage, process the grief and the sadness, and then allow it to be our passion for our daily practices of creating an energy that is so sovereign that these darker forces that have been ruling this planet for too long are not able to siphon our energy. So the more of us that are aware of what they are doing, the better. But if we are not in an energetically sovereign space, we actually becoming aware is feeding their thread. So getting outside right now all the time is important, but between these eclipses, you guys, the energy is just so heightened. And I believe that's, these leaders of the countries, they know about this stuff. They know about astrology. They know exactly what they are harvesting for their own power. So, that's why I went back and forth on, do I want to do any ritual with the group, with anyone at this time? Because I don't want to lend any energy to those people. So my best thing to tell everybody is to keep your energy sovereign. One of the old ways of clearing your energy body, because in the past they believed, again, I've been reading about the Cathars, so I know the Cathars believed this, and the agnostics, that your body is a temple. And I believe the witches looked at your body like this too, because of what we've seen them doing in that circle I was talking about, the circle of 12 women, the 9-foot circle, 12 women, one green man, or horned man in the center, and they ecstatic dance would actually cleanse and purge the body, so that you would release all of those energies that could be utilized by outside sources, because your body is a temple. It's not meant to house demonic entities, and I hate to even use the word demonic because I do believe that is a Christian concept itself. I'll say evil entities attached to you when you are in a low vibrational frequency. So does that mean while you're purging or releasing or processing anger, rage, and grief that you're going to attract those things to you? Not necessarily. It depends on how long you stay in that state. And a lot of us have issues with depression and anxiety, so we need to monitor how long we're allowing ourselves to stay in those spaces, and how empowering of a space is it when you are processing those things. Are you allowing both the human perspective and the soul perspective while you're releasing? That's an important thing to look at, because I can release and process things and have my human feelings about that whatever, about the puppy I told you about, but I also have my soul's perspective on it, and both have a place. And when you're sovereign, that's why I have an energetic way of casting my circle, and I do that every Sunday. Cast a circle of empowerment, and I do that for myself daily before I get out of bed. Like, kind of like people will say a prayer in their head, I say my incantation every day to keep myself in that space. So no matter what I'm doing, it's for the highest good, and I've got myself protected in this energetic bubble. If you are not sovereign, carrying around a black obsidian or a hematite or anything like that as a Christian person is not going, energetically it may affect you like this much. When you are sovereign, your energy is going to amplify the energy of that stone, making you more protected. But if you are not in a place of sovereignty, the stone is only going to do that much. Just like the same thing, you could, the plant spirit's only going to do that much when you're placing the power outside of you. The work of the witch, the work of the craft is always alchemy. And originally, I believe, when we look at, I've been talking a lot about tarot cards today because I've been researching and reading a lot about that. And originally, the High Priestess and the Empress card that I was talking about was this energy of the witch, I believe, because it's showing you how the feminine actually emanates magic just from her being. That's why those two cards are so different than the card of the magician, The magician is the alchemist. They're taking, they're actually doing, right? And that's more of a masculine, like I'm doing, right? And the feminine is the channel, whether it's the magic of the cauldron, the Holy Grail, the cauldron or the Holy Grail, the channel. That is what the witch is, just in their being. And so that's why I believe in the days of old, like they were attacking women, because the masculine, if they weren't in touch with their feminine, they had to really do a lot to create that alchemy, right? Where the feminine's presence, when in sovereignty, when healed, when doing the shadow work, is actually done in a correct way, you emanate that power. You are the channel, you are the chalice, you are the Holy Grail, you are the cauldron. And magic bubbles up and is created just from your state of being. And it's a power that you carry with you. But if you are one of those people that does you get a shadow workbook and you do just a few little workbook passages and you go to therapy 3 times and say you've done shadow work, I promise you, you are missing out on a lot more power that you have available to you if you would go deeper. Because there are so many people that are so afraid of their past that they are constantly spiritually bypassing and being like, yeah, I've done shadow work, I'm just all love and light, and I'm just gonna be over here doing this. My childhood trauma, it's good, it doesn't affect me. And it's like, oh, that just means you've got a lid on it so good that you think it's not affecting you. And therefore, any magic you have is more of that masculine kind of magician energy, where you're having to take one thing and another thing, and it's like, how much are you actually getting from that spell jar when you've got so much energy, so much of your energy holding down the trauma? It's like that trauma is bubbling over out of you and into that spell jar you're creating. And so you being able to access your full power it's so important that you're doing shadow work, and especially between the eclipses like we are right now. We've got a lunar eclipse and a full moon coming up, a full moon in Virgo this week, and so that's like the other end of these eclipses. Now every year we have these usually around 3 annual eclipses, and one's at the beginning of the year, one's kind of in the middle, and one's towards the end. And every year, every eclipse is potent, right? It gives the divine an opportunity to create transformation. And the witches really, when you were initiated as a priestess or a witch, you had to learn some stuff about astrology, because the astrology is the energetic setting of the stage for us, and the actual whatever you call, like it gives you the script, right? It gives you not really fully the script, because you create your own story, but like half the script, let's say that, like first draft of a script, and the setting of the stage is astrology. And so it's important to understand what's going on overall. And that's one of the 13 powers of the witch that Diana gave to Aradia, is to read the stars at night. And that's astrology. And this particular eclipse has some major things going on during it. One of them is Mercury went retrograde, but the actual Mercury retrograde in Pisces has a lot of positive influences, where like there are a lot of positive influences, but also like a lot of like, whoa, there's some big shifting here with Aries and Neptune and Saturn and even Uranus. And I think that's, why the war erupted during this time. Again, like it's energetically setting up the stage and the divine trying to turn the ship around. But we also have these elites that are they're almost like they are in a entirely different dimension than our timeline not even timeline. It's kind of like they're in this bubble of energy that is very different than us lay people that are here at the bottom, right? But us regular people are creating a new energy because they've been dependent on us keeping our energy at this codependent place where fear drives everything. And so right now, that's what the humanity is teetering with. And there's more of us than them. But there are just a few families and a few people in power. I mean, there's a lot of them, but not a lot compared to how many of us there are. So if we as a whole could just stop fighting each other, feeling like we need to comment hatefully on people's things and start trying to be of the light, because every time someone's commenting something hateful on my page, all that's doing is showing me the vibrational frequency that even the witches are out. Because I told you, it's not just the Christians attack me, it's the witches attack me as well. So whatever you want to call the elites, reptilians, whatever, they're creating entities that are feeding upon our energy, and then they're bringing it back to that original source of creation, which is their original ceremonies that they are doing. And you know, it really, when I look at Stranger Things, the movie, if any of you guys have watched it, like that storyline is really rooted in the history of Sophia and the demiurge, or however you say that word. So and how like it Stranger Things was like, it's like this analogy for what's happening on our planet right now. So if you look at it through that lens of like, there's this creator and something like broke off from that creator, and everybody's feeding those tentacles that we were seeing growing, and those tentacles were feeding. Yeah. If you look at it from that lens, it's like, wow, there's so many. I've been thinking about this lately too, like what movies have come out in the past 5 years, because, you know, I believe these movies a lot of times are actually setting up like humanity for what's to come. So our consciousness is like prepared for what's coming in. But we're almost at 100,000 likes, you guys. When we hit 100,000, I will cast a circle. Do you guys have any questions for me before I go into that circle casting today? Yeah, look at the history of Sophia. It's really interesting, because even the word like demiurge, however you say that, reminds me of Demogorgon. Like, there's just some things in there. Oh, I'm glad you caught me too. I have a witch school online if you guys want to check that out. We have Practical Magic Retreat that's coming up in October. So if you have not signed up and want to come to Sedona, you know, I feel like a lot of us are frozen in place right now. And this is not the year we're supposed to stay frozen in place. You're supposed to let your heart expand. That's what the year of the horse is about. You know, people are just talking about fast forward movement, but I think the biggest thing, the most important thing about the horse medicine to bring up is the heart. And allowing, like, the horse has such a big heart, and its frequency of energy is so much larger than it is. The way we stay grounded is by focusing on something like taking a class. Like I told you guys, I've been taking a class learning about the Cathars, or I want to take that Cathar class, but the tarot class that I'm in is talking about that as well. And I'm thinking about adding a tarot class like specifically for tarot later. And so I wanted to really deep dive with someone I respect who reads tarot and knows the history, and I'm learning so much, and it's keeping me so grounded. And I just feel like everybody should be doing that. Like going to a retreat, you know, I'm not just saying that because it's what I do, but this is the year, these are the times that we need to be doing this. And, you know, I look back at the amount of growth I had by being being a assistant at a retreat and going to retreats and hosting my own retreats during that 2020-2021 time where everybody was like so freaked out. It was almost like they were frozen in time back then as well. And it's like, you came here to live your life. You need to keep living your life. And by not allowing yourself to doom scroll for hours on end, you then are elevating your frequencies so that there are more empowered people and the elites will be taken down faster. But right now, we can just expect to keep seeing more, because until we see enough that most of us people who are not in the elites realm can look at them and say, okay, we no longer accept this, then things will start to change. Like if the burning times can come to an end and the witch hysteria and fear can come to an end, the times in which we live now can come to an end as well. We don't have an example of how the burning times came to an end, I think, because historically they didn't want us to know that. They wanted us to just think, well, the government decided this was the best way to go. So we don't see what the people were actually doing. That's why I tell you guys to journal, so that in the future when something arises that needs change, because we're like an onion, like multiple things need peeled back, so many layers. And so the people in our future are going to need an example of how to do that. And we're looking and we're asking, like, do actual protests do anything? I ask myself that a lot. I think the way they were doing it in Minneapolis was so beautiful. Like singing "It's okay to change your mind" and things like that. It was so beautiful. Yay! Thank you, Marjorie. 104K. I've missed you so much in the lives, Marjorie. Thank you to everyone that has been moderating. Margie is a priestess in my coven, and she's my fierce protector, but I have a lot of my coven sisters on here. I see Kelly's here, Erin's here, Kelly, She-Wolf Tarot Kelly, a couple Kellys here. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of people pop in. Ashley is coming to a retreat. We have Salem retreat coming up in May, and in October we have Practical Magic retreat. Haley's here. Hi, Haley. And yes. So what have you guys been starting or working on in the last 2 weeks? Because there's been a lot of signs, like destiny shifting you in a direction. I've actually officially started writing my book that I've been telling everyone I wanted to write, and that project is in motion officially. I'm so excited about that. The past few days I've been kind of blah from having that little procedure. I had an allergic reaction to tape, and so I was like really miserable. But today's the first day I'm not itching all day long and feeling good. So I'm happy to be here live with you guys, and I'm excited about that project moving forward, and that blossomed and came into my reality. So it's like this month, what has come into your reality that the divine is saying, like, this feels outside your comfort zone, but also at the same time, it's something you want. What is that thing? Because that's what eclipses, that's how they work. The divine kind of brings in the opportunity, but this, the Mercury retrograde and even the eclipse was like prefaced with this energy, this North Node energy is where your soul grows the most, but it's outside your comfort zone. So like for me, like writing an actual book, like I've been attempting this for years, and I finally have a structure, and the opportunity presented itself. So I'm gonna go for it. It's probably gonna be a couple year project, but it is in the works. I'm excited about that. But since we're over 100K, who wants to thank you for the gift, you guys? I really appreciate the gifts when you send them in. Thank you for liking the live and sharing it with your friends. If you haven't followed me, please hit the follow button. Check out my retreats, check out my witch school. It's definitely a difficult time for us online creators right now because everything is absolutely stagnant. And we know that'll shift, but you know, when all of your work is dependent on how the algorithm's going and everything, it's like, who's seeing what we're putting out and, you know, all those things. So check out my witch school, check out my retreats. Thank you for the gifts. And you know, I don't have a community of people here where I live because I am a legit witch, and even the spiritual people in my town, like I have a friend who I host practical magic with here, but she's an herbalist. So she's different than me, where people in our town are like, oh, Harmony's a bit much. Well, that's because I'm a legit witch, right? And my friend is more spiritual. You know, she is definitely a witch, but people see her as a little more palatable, I would say, because she's more spiritual and not the true essence of the witch. So it just goes to show you the witch still scares people. Just like the doctor I was telling you about, he's like cutting my arm open and he's like, so you don't worship the devil? No, I don't worship the devil. Witches don't believe in Christian mythology. Well, there are people that call themselves satanic witches. Well, there's people that call themselves Christian witches too. Like, I mean, that's why we need some structure, you guys. But I am about to cast the circle. I am pagan. All witches, I believe, are somewhat pagan. And again, not pagan in the sense that I'm practicing themalism or some religion like that, but pagan in the essence of a time period and how they lived their life during that time period before the conversion of pagan Europe and the pandemic of the world witch wound, as I call it. So if you want to participate in the casting of our circle, you need to be in a place where you'll be undisturbed. I cast the circle like a guided meditation. So if you have your witch hat, put your witch hat on, go in a room where you'll be by yourself. I cast the circle, calling in the elements, the guardians of the watchtowers, and a deity in each direction as an archetype image. And so we create this energetic circle around you of sovereignty and of protection, and we lift it up to a higher plane of consciousness. And what this does is allow you to kind of come into that transcendent space. And then the way I cast the circle is so that it closes when you lie your head down to sleep tonight. And when the circle, I say close, but technically it's opening the circle. So the circle will be open but never broken, meaning we open that circle, but this gives the opportunity of the level of consciousness that was like way up here to come down and into the body while you're sleeping. So when you wake up tomorrow, then you're going to have the medicine of what you learned today in that transcendent space coming into your everyday life embodied throughout the week. So if you want to take part in that, go ahead and type in the chat, yes, thank you, I accept, I receive. Find a space where you can sit down with your spine long, no legs crossed, no arms crossed, or you can lie down. But if you're lying down, you can't curl up like this. I want you to lie on your back with your palms open, kind of like in Shavasana. When you're crossing your arms or legs, you're blocking off your energy. When your arms are open to receive, your energy is open to receive. The reason you're typing in the chat, yes, thank you, I accept, I receive, that is you energetically saying, I am accepting this circle casting. If you don't type this or say this out loud, you are just witnessing me do this, which you are more than welcome to do. Because I love for people to see what this is so that they know it is nothing evil. So I'm going to shut my door here and get a drink, and we will start. I'm just going to clear my energy real quick before we start. There's a lot of energy on the live, so I'm going to use some smoke really quick. If you want to join me in this, you can light some incense. All right, again, if you are participating in circle casting, just type yes, thank you, I accept, I receive. Find a place where you will be undisturbed and it's quiet. Lie down or sit up. Your arms are not crossed, your legs are not crossed. Your palms are open to receive. Type yes, thank you, I accept in the chat. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. And long breath out your nose. Just let your body relax. Let's just go ahead, take your chin to your chest and then rock your left ear to your left shoulder. Then bring your chin to your chest and rock your right ear to your right shoulder. So you're just clearing the energy of the throat here by doing this and releasing the weight of the world from your shoulders. And then just bring your chin to center and then bring it back up to a nice neutral place. Deep breath in. Long, slow breath out the nose. Now I want you to extend your legs out, flex your feet, point your feet, flex your feet, point your feet. Now circle them 3 times in each direction. We usually don't do this, but I feel our bodies are collecting a lot of energy from being online. So we're just going to do these movements to help stir the energy in our body and release it. Okay, and then just let your legs relax. Let your toes fall out to the side or dangle off the chair. Deep breath in. Long breath out the nose. All right, now what you're gonna do is you're gonna bring tightness and tension to every part of your body. So let's start by clenching your fists. Clench your fist, tighten your shoulders up to your ears, scrunch your face, so make the ugliest face you can make, tighten your chest, your lungs, tighten your hips, your lower back, tighten your knees, every part of your body. Flex your feet is kind of coming into this ball. So you're tightening everything as you can. Notice and feel every part of your body because you're clenching it so hard. Now take a deep breath in. Exhale out the mouth and relax everything. Let the shoulders melt, the hands release, the feet release. Take a deep breath in through the nose. Audible exhale out the mouth. Use your abdominal muscles to expel every last drop of breath. Pause. Seal the lips. This time slowly inhale, dragging the air in through your nose. Feel it move through your throat, expanding your lungs, expanding your heart, dropping your shoulders down the length of your spine. Feel the breath move through your hips, through your womb or your hora, down your legs, all the way to your feet and the tips of your toes. Hold that breath in. For 3, 2, 1. Part your lips and audibly exhale. Expelling every last drop of breath. And before you inhale, fully surrender your body to the earth beneath you. And feel her rise up below you. And then slowly, gently return your breath back to a nice rhythm and pace that feels good for you. As I call forth concentric circles of light to surround us now, moving north, south, east, west, pulsating north, east, south, west, north, west, south, east. This pulsating light is moving sunwise or clockwise, and then it pauses and moves moonwise or counterclockwise. See this frequency of light within the darkness behind your closed eyes. Continuing to breathe, feeling your feet, feeling your heartbeat, and the earth beneath you. Notice the color of light without putting a defining label on the meaning of the color. Become curious about how your body is experiencing this pulsating light. Notice that you are sitting in the center of this pulsating circular light that moves sunwise and moonwise. Notice the temperature of your body, how it feels where your skin touches the air. Relax your lower back, relax your belly, soften your shoulders. Take a deep breath in, long breath out. I call forth the guardians of the watchtowers of the north, south, east, and west to witness this sacred circle across mountains and deserts, cities and oceans, countries and states, through rolling hills and the plains. We come together as one collective, virtually, energetically connecting our combined intent of protection and intention as a sovereign being in a community of collective sovereign individuals. I call forth the guardian of the north, keeper of earth. I invoke the elements and the spirits of earth to join us now. Keeper of the crossroads, mother of witches, she who stands in the liminal space with the ability to see all directions at once. She's joining us today with her black guardian dogs at her side. These are loving but fiercely protective black dogs. She holds her torch of light in her right hand, and in her left hand she holds the pomegranate. She is an underworld goddess. She owns the realm in which she finds herself to be. She makes it her own. She guides with the torch of light, but does not deny where she finds herself to be. She is empowered. She is sovereign. She is keeper of the crossroads. Bless us as we call your name. Hecate, 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 Hecate. Guardian of the southeast, keeper of the rising sun and the sacred wells, she who extends the gift of hope, of returning light within the darkest, coldest months of the year. Bless us as we call your name, Bridget, 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 Bridget. Guardian of the east, keeper of air, I invoke the elements and the spirits of air, she of 10,000 spells, she of 10,000 names, she who stands in placement of divine mother, goddess, archetype of who the feminine can be, goddess of transformation, goddess of alchemy, goddess of she who picks up all the pieces with great determination and will and reconstructs new life from destruction. She who rises and shapeshifts with black angelic wings, she shows herself to us, invoking your angelic wings from the base of your spine, energetically traveling up the length of your spine and expanding up and out around you as you rise in your power, call forth the wind. Bless us as we call your name, Isis, 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 Isis. Guardian of the southeast, keeper of sovereignty, she who shows us what it means to live in the excitement of who we are, living for you and only you. She rides upon her horse, bareback, at a speed and a rate as if there is no one else on the planet. She feels no codependent call to do anything for anyone outside of her because she lives for her. And because she lives for her, her energetic resonance lives on and awakens every witch who hears her name, who notices the birds, the doves that are awakening this time, the pigeons, sparrows, cardinals. She is reminding us now that Spirit speaks through birds. This animal is sacred, and they are sovereign, and they're whispering messages to all of us. Be mindful, watch for them, listen to their message. Allow your hum to sing the song of the Divine Mother, awakening her essence, her ability to create in the darkness. She reminds you the dark of the chalice, the darkness of the womb, the darkness of the cauldron, all are the start of new life. See beyond the veils of illusion and allow yourself to step into the liminal, sovereign space of creation of your own reality. Bless us as we call your name, Rhiannon, 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 Rhiannon. Guardian of the South, Keeper of Fire, I invoke the elements and the spirits of fire to join us now. Queen of the Fae, she who knows love is the way, reminding us that it is important today to express all forms of rage, love, and allow the changing seasons of your emotion to flow fluidly. Allow the fire to burn away darkness and grow new life within its wake. She reminds you to keep the ashes of what is burned, because the phoenix does not rise unless something has burned to the ground. Allow your rage to be the fuel from the ashes that you rise again and again each new day. She reminds you of how the fire warms and nourishes you, of how it creates, transforms something that cannot be utilized into something that can be utilized. She reminds you of the fire deep within the earth, and the fire above you is the sun, and the fire within you that beats as your sacred heart in your body. The fire is below you, the fire is above you, and the fire is within you, she says. Honor it, walk with it, be with it. Bless us as we call your name. Anya, 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 Anya. Guardian of the Southwest, keeper of mystery, she who has woven her mystery through dark halls and caverns, through the recesses of the unconscious mind of the feminine and the masculine that is open to her message. She awakens her daughters at this time through the wisdom of the witches. She is one of us. She reminds you that people will mistake who you are. They will define you sometimes as who you are not. And that says nothing about you at all. She reminds you that your sovereignty comes within your ability to emanate the mystery and the magic and the power of who you are through your eyes, through your heart, through your energy. She reminds you that you cannot hide, that your energy speaks louder than your words. Your shadows will speak louder than your words as well. Sit with the shadows, for there are many when you live ages in the shadows with a wound. She reminds you the beauty of shedding layer after layer of who they defined you to be, to find yourself at center. Bless us as we call your name. Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene. Guardian of the West, keeper of water, I invoke the elements and the spirits of water to join us now. Keeper of the cauldron, goddess of alchemy, magic, and mystery, goddess of transformation, goddess of dedication, goddess of determination, will. She reminds you that there are energetic cauldrons existing within your body that you are alchemizing and stirring each day, keeping these cauldrons upright, meanings addressing what is real, what is reality, what came before, but living for the now. In your ability to do both, your heart will awaken, your feet will grow roots, and your wisdom will be born of the tragedies and the trials and the challenges that have entered your life. Blessed be the cauldrons. Bless us as we call your name. Caradwin, 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 Caradwin. Guardian of the Northwest, weaver of our sacred circle, queen of the witches, queen of the oppressed, daughter of Diana, weave our sacred circle sealed this day. Fill our body, mind, heart, and soul with your wisdom of magic, your wisdom of sovereignty, your wisdom that allows the witch to walk in integrity through the 13 powers. Bless us as we call your name. Aradia, 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 Aradia. From beneath us, we invoke the presence of our loving Earth Mother to rise up from beneath us to support us as we heavily surrender to be cradled by her loving embrace. We are the earth, and the earth is us. We call forth the ancestors from each area of each individual that is casting this circle, the indigenous ancestors of where you now reside that walk with you in a good way. We invoke their presence from the bones and the flesh that returned to the earth. For each individual sovereign sister, we call forth the ancestors that returned to the earth from their bloodline, from their DNA, their blood, and their flesh that have returned to the earth, that walk with them in a good way. We call your presence forth. We invoke the presence of the Fae, the elementals, the gnomes, the elvins. We call you forth as protectors of our loving Earth Mother and of those who walk gently upon her. From above us, we call forth the star brothers and sisters. We call forth the planetary systems that are the homes of our souls, where we as seeds decided to incarnate on this earth journey, one of the more difficult planets to live upon. We chose this journey. They remind you that you chose this path, you chose this time for a reason, and they witness over you the star brothers and sisters that walk with us in a good way, watching over us all, pouring forth wisdom as we bring our hands to our heart, left hand on the heart, right hand over it. And from the depths, the deepest, darkest parts of our heart and the recesses of our unconscious mind, we call forth the presence of our inner child to rise up and step forward, their creative, invincible innocence to join us now. join us in a waterfall of pink, opalescent light. The genius within you, part of you that remembers your home before you came here, part of you that remembers the magic and the mystery, part of you that's untainted by this world. Her invincible innocence is here now, peeking through the front of your heart, protected by this waterfall of opalescent light, shimmering pink, smiling. We call forth our I Am presence, each of us individually, sovereignly, in our sacred circle that we cast today. And as we do so, we lift this circle up, up, up to the 7th and 8th plane of consciousness, opening the channel, the crown of your head as you anchor your feet, your root deeply into the center of the earth, opening the channel from above you to transcend the ego's protection, to transcend the ego's judgment, and come to a place where you communicate through the higher self's awareness with the oversoul, giving you wisdom and messages on the next best steps for your path. Integrating this plane of consciousness now through a deep breath in and out. This sacred circle is now sealed and will not be open until each of us lie our head down to sleep tonight. And as we do, our head will rest upon the pillow. We will drift into dreamland, where we will travel, where we will connect. The circle will open, and the medicine will be able to integrate within our ego structure in a good way from our higher self, so that throughout the week we may integrate the medicine, the transcendent medicine that we received in this moment now. And as we do, we seal this sacred circle, as above, so below, as within, so without, as I will, so mote it be. It is done, it is done, it is done. Blessed be. Taking a deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth and audibly exhale. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Turn your head right and left. Tip your chin to your chest. Keeping your eyes closed, tip your chin up to look at the ceiling. And then bring your chin back to neutral. Take a deep breath in. This time, as you exhale out, gently blink your eyes open. Coming back into this time and space, here now, connected virtually on this live. Blessed be, Marjorie. I love coming back on seeing that. Blessed be, Kelly. So mote it be. Akaria. Blessed be, Echo. Blessed be, Mila. Blessed be, Victoria. If anyone wants to share any colors that came in or share a message that came in, we would be happy to witness that. Thank you, Florence. Thank you. The screen's moving really quick. Blessed be. Thank you to all of you for commenting. Thank you, Sparkle. Blessed be. Thank you for the gifts. It means the world to me that you send through gifts. So does anyone have any questions for me that I might not have answered? Ashley had green come in. Oh, a lot of green, you guys. I'm seeing multiple people with green. Blessed be. Is it Tanya S? Original. Green, another green. Rhiannon was in the southeast, yes. Why do you ask that? We each cast our circles differently. These deities that I called forth today, another green, but a gold and silver and orange, green and yellow. I love all the colors that are coming in, but I love the green because it feels like the horse's heart to me. Love that. Gold and yellow and blue, pretty. So does anyone have any questions for me? Gold and blue. Looks like Kelly's helping moderate today. Thank you. The magician saw pink flowers. I saw threads. Ooh, that went really quick. Bright gold. I saw the sun and then the moon passing each other. Oh, that's beautiful, Haley. Sparkle, you cried. Oh, I love that. I actually love it when people cry. I think we need to cry more. You know, when we cry, a hormone is created, serotonin and dopamine, and it actually soothes the nervous system. So it's very healthy to cry. When we don't cry, or we hold back the cry, we are actually preventing ourselves from healing something. So, does anybody have any plans for this full moon? Are you going to release and let something go? Have you guys been journaling? Well, thank you for being here, Mystic Witchy. From the Netherlands. I love that. Thank you, Magician. Thank you, Haley. Thank you guys for all the gifts. I appreciate it. So, oh, happy birthday, Cat Witch. Blessed solar return. Yes, our retreat is appropriate for someone new. We cater to all levels of the craft, but we always teach from a place that maybe, you don't know what you're doing. So all of the ceremonies and rituals that we do, we teach you these so that when you go home, you can do them yourself. So the retreat we have space open for in Sedona that retreat is so, I just love all the retreats. There's something about meeting with women and a group of women for a period of days that really opens up your eyes to how women are actually meant to be living. And I believe there was once a matriarchal time where the women worked together in a really good way. And we are really wounded as women, and the witch wound is really present. And so there's so much competition between women. And this feeling of there's only can be like the one it girl, and the women are just constantly at each other. But when you come together in a group and you share from a space of vulnerability, and that's what we try to do at our retreats, is open up that space of vulnerability where being vulnerable is welcomed. Because in that space of vulnerability, our strength of that energy that exists within the feminine, it actually awakens, and not in an unhealthy way, because we keep a really sovereign space. So it's not energetically everybody's absorbing each other's crap. We are coming together in the space of the sacred witness. And Mary Magdalene teaches that medicine. She is the priestess who can go toe to toe with your demons and not look away. And that's what we are teaching at the retreats is to be the sacred witness of your sisters wherever they're at, and know that their journey says nothing about your journey other than the fact that you are going to magnetize mirrors of yourself in everybody in your life. And so at these retreats, we actually end up a collective of really powerful women, because we are bringing forth women that are really deeply connected and are mirrors of one another. Because if you're showing up to our retreat, Stella and I in Salem, or Margot and I in Practical Magic, it's like you're a mirror of us if you're attracted to us. So we're each mirroring back and forth lessons to one another. But we don't get that opportunity because we're usually afraid to put ourselves out there around women that we don't know. It's really scary to share a room with somebody you don't know, when in the end, it becomes the greatest gift you can receive, to share a room with someone you don't know. For some of us, it's the scariest thing to go get on a plane by yourself and travel, to the location. And that, for myself, when I went to my very first retreat, I put myself out there to okay, I'm going with no one I know. I don't even know the facilitator personally. I'm going to experience this in this way. It wasn't the first retreat I went to, but it was this one retreat that I knew no one. And I was like, I want to be able to feel what my participants are feeling, so that I know what you guys are coming into. Because the first retreat I went to, I went with a friend and roomed with a friend. The next one, I created two beautiful friends, Erin and Julie, and I roomed with them, and we actually got lost in Sedona together, hiking out to the birthing cave. I think we actually entered a portal of some kind. It was very trippy. The most trippy experience I've ever had in Sedona. And these two women, they feel like the same way. We entered some alternate dimension, timeline, something. And I've heard of this happening in Sedona, but I'd never had it happen until then. And it happens a lot on that hike to the birthing cave. I've found with people where we were completely lost, and I swear there was a snake. The two women with me swore it was a snake, but it was, when we blinked, it shifted into a stick, and it was like, what is happening here? And then in the end, the road was literally a few feet away from us, yet we were turning in circles. The one girl was panicking, saying, because it was getting dark, she was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have to have a helicopter come pick us up. We're gonna be stuck out here. It's getting dark. And I actually at that time was like, okay, I can fix this. And I stopped them and invited the three of us to come together and close our eyes and take a deep breath and anchor our intention. And then I just channeled like I do, and their words came through, and we opened our eyes and we started looking around, and we realized the road was right there. But yet I swear we did not see that road. Even I was panicking, and I live so close to Sedona. I was in Sedona all the time. So there's really magical things that can happen in Sedona, and it happened with two women that I never knew before that moment, and I still stay in touch with them. And that's really, the goal of everything I do, is to connect witches to other witches, even though we might not live in the same town, because so many people, the amount of comments I get on a daily that's like, I need to find my coven. And it's so hard to find that in our towns. Even if you're in a big city, a lot of witches are still in the broom closet. So, and then even if you do come together in a coven, I've heard of some really toxic, scary things that are happening. So, at our retreats, we are gridding the land and the property. We are preparing the space energetically for these women to come together and create a true sisterhood. And it is the highlight of my year, every year, to be able to host these retreats. And I hope that even though the world is going crazy, that I will still be able to do this, because I believe that this work of sisterhood is so needed. Because even going home and having new friends that live in different cities and states, you feel like you have your people. And what that does to you by spending 5 days with women, it allows you to show up different in your female friendships when you return home, because you're a different person. You recognize that women can actually come together in a really powerful way. And we need that to be happening in our everyday world. So, Salem, we go there in May. I'm super excited for that. We're going to have a ceremony at the Witch House. We stay at the Coach House. That one's already sold out. I'm over the moon about that one. And my beautiful sister in the craft, Stella, Witch of the Moon, comes all the way from Australia here to hold that one. And then this will be Margie's third retreat. Wow, Margie, that's crazy. I think it's going to be, has Erin been at? No, Erin was, you weren't at the first Salem one. So this will be a new experience for you to come to Salem. But Sedona still has spaces open, and my beautiful sister Margot, she's an herbalist, co-hosts that one with me. And 222, it's 1222 here. Blessed be. We host that retreat together, and that's like a witch's wonderland. We teach you the Chernips ritual for Hecate. We do a red tent ceremony. You get to experience yoni steaming. The Salem retreat is sold out, but all the retreats are vegan because I am so, and also I believe like that's part of cleansing the temple, is eating in a way that is good for your body temple, so you energetically show up differently when you are not filling your body with the pain and suffering of animals. So all our retreats are vegan, and we have a private chef in Sedona. The food is catered for Salem, but Sedona, we have a cemetery right nearby, so we walk to the cemetery twice for that retreat. We do Ritual of the Sphinx, which is rooted in a ceremony from the Golden Dawn. We do it the way Silver Ravenwolf does it. We do all these beautiful rituals and ceremonies there on this amazing property that we gather on. So if you have been interested, there are still payment plans available for a couple more months. In June, we turn the payment plan ability off. So if you're considering it and want to lock in a payment plan, do that sooner than later. I promise you, you won't regret it. It's always a little uncomfortable at first, and then once you get to know people, it becomes very comfortable, and usually you don't want to leave. And I often feel bad for the people. There was only the rooms in Sedona that are private are actually already sold out, but oftentimes the people that ask for a private room don't seem to connect as much quickly, because they don't have that roommate. And it seems like coming to the retreat, even though you don't know who your roommate's going to be, because you both don't know anyone, it's like, oh, you have that comfort of your roommate there. So I would love for you guys to join us this year. I know it's a scary year to be putting money into something like that, but I can tell you some of the most expansive growth I had, and I always tell people this, was in 2020. And I everyone was hiding out, and I was driving to Sedona weekly to meditate with this guy, and I also went to a conference there that completely changed my life. And from there I started, the retreats grew, everything grew in my world. And this is a potent time for awakening. Don't let it, with our trauma being triggered, we might have that fight, flight, freeze response, where we want to freeze and not feel anything and put our whole life on hold, or we might fight and we might become aggressive with people in the outside world, or we might just completely be running from anything we're feeling. And so trying to keep ourselves so busy with work and ignoring everything else that's going on. And so it's really important that to understand that the entire planet right now, on this planet, our entire civilization of humans, every country is having something break open and break apart, and it's being experienced in some places bigger than others. Here in the US, we had some Pluto energy come in and shift recently that's really making this big shift for the US. So everybody here in the US is experiencing it. But planetary wide, we are seeing the truth. The veils are being lifted, and that is not a time to be in fight, flight, or freeze. You need to take care of yourselves. After you get off this live, go outside, breathe in the sun. Like, close your eyes and breathe in those golden rays of light. That is the only God, like Florence says. That is the only God we know. And it does not want you down on your knees. That song, Sympathy Magic, just saying those words gives me chills. That is the only God you know. The goddess, your creator, she is inside of you. She is part of you. And earlier I was talking about the Cathars, and that was the Cathars message, that there is a spark of the divine that exists within you. And that's the message of the witch as well. Return to center. Return to center. Come home to yourself, because when you come home to yourself, you realize that God, our creator, they're different. God is the sun. It's the fire and the earth. It's nurturing, nourishing your body. Fire is actually nourishing you. But the goddess, the creator, she is within you. When you spend your whole life looking outside of you for that power, you're never going to feel like you're home. You're always going to feel trapped. And that's what they wanted. Feel a slave to a creator outside of you that you would never be good enough for. Your source, your creator, it's part of you. And the only reason you don't realize your worth is because you've never connected with that part of you that's right here at your heart. It's what makes us one. We all carry a spark of the same creator. That's why I tell people, be careful with your cord cuttings, because you're just creating energetic disharmony if you're trying to cut cords with people, because you will never cut cords with the creator. You chose to be here and have connections with all these people because you all have a similar mission and path and reason for being here. The cords we cut as witches are supposed to be for oaths and vows. Like you're getting a divorce, like you're leaving a religion, not trying to cut yourself off from people. Maybe it's an energetic storyline of codependency you're cutting the cord with. But don't cut the cords with people. We are one. We are also sovereign. And wrapping your mind around that as a codependent person can take years to unravel, but it can be done. I am one with my family of origin, and yet I have boundaries with certain people in my family. I never have found the need to cut cords with my mother. I just needed to create a boundary. One of my sisters I don't communicate with. I have a boundary there. It doesn't mean I went and cut cords with her. It doesn't mean I feel the need to curse or hex them. So often as witches, we are cursing and hexing and using baneful magic to sidestep our need to create boundaries, to make those life choices that are hard. You're a witch that's still operating under that patriarchal religious structure of turning your power to someone outside of you, asking your craft to create the division between the storylines of you and another. The craft is not going to do that to you. It's going to energetically cause tsunamis and tidal waves and tornadoes and all kinds of other things, earthquakes. Sovereignty is at the root of the craft. You cannot spell your way out of these relationship trials that are meant to grow and evolve you as a human. You're just going to cause yourself more trauma and more chaos. You might feel peace for a moment. Everyone feels peace for a moment after the hex or the curse or even the cord cutting. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, what the fuck did I just do to myself? Like, where I was so good, now what's coming in? And they try to find a reason to spiritually bypass it. And it's like, it's not how it works, you guys. You chose these people in your life. I chose my mother. I chose my sisters before I came down to this earth to dwell. And they were meant to challenge me in every way, shape, and form. Those challenges, those trials, those tribulations, I wanted them. I took them on. Thank you, Margie. You're always taking care of me. I wish I could hug you through the phone, sister. Take the steps you need to take and take care of you and work on growing your beautiful heart. Protect your energy on this full moon. If there's any spell or ritual you're going to do, decide not to do it and just do protection rituals. Protect yourself. Figure out what actual tangible steps you need to take. The tangible steps that you need to take are often creating the boundaries that are hard to create and then upholding those boundaries in a loving way. And then after the eclipse, let the spell work you do assist you in moving forward. Let it be an energetic assistance. But your goal is to emanate this week the magic, to be the magic. To remember you don't need any tools. Tools are fun. We always add them, but this year at retreats, we're really working with both retreats are going to be working on your inner magic and how to emanate that magic, to be that magic, so that you are the magic. But anyway, I love you guys. Margie's right. I need a drink. Thank you for being here. I'll be back next Sunday. Thank you to the moderators, Margie, Kelly, Erin, anyone else that was helping. Haley was in here helping, I believe, too. Thank you, Victoria and Casey, and I hope you enjoy Eclectic Goddess. Thank you for being here. You've been on the whole time, I think. A lot of people have today. Thank you guys for making this space possible for me. I know ownership of TikTok is not great right now, and people are really iffy about that, but I'm really thankful I'm able to come on here and still connect with you guys. So if you haven't checked out my retreats, check out my retreats, sign up for Sedona, check out Witch School, And remember to support your small creators, even if it's not me and you don't want witch school classes. Remember the small creators out there. This is a time that we need your support to be able to keep doing what we're doing and teaching the way we're teaching. And so I love you guys. Comment on my videos. I see you. I love you. I consider you my community, not my followers. And I'm so happy to gather with my community every Sunday at 10 o'clock Arizona time. So have a blessed Sunday. As I will, so mote it be.